Hi. Say hi. What is up, guys? My name is Lex. As you can tell by the dogs, I am here in South Florida. This is my hometown. This is where I live, around 20 minutes west of downtown Fort Lauderdale. I say this because a lot of people that I meet don't actually know where I live. They don't know if I live in Texas or Vegas or LA because I make videos from all over the place, but been living in Florida now for about 7 years, and I've been living in Broward County for around 3 years, and I love it. It's a great place to live. Today is July 9th. July 9th is the summer. In the summer, the World Series of Poker goes on in Las Vegas, Nevada. So you may ask yourself, Lex, you're a professional poker player. You're a YouTube vlogger. Why are you in Florida when the World Series of Poker is going on in Las Vegas? Well, a couple reasons behind that. One, the World Series of Poker is strictly tournaments. Everyone congregates together and they run tournaments day after day after day, culminating in the $10,000 main event, which is going on right now. Well, I'm not a tournament player. I don't study tournaments. I don't play tournaments. I made my living and I continue to make my living off of cash game poker. I don't really have too much experience. I don't have much study time in tournaments, and I don't really like tournaments. They just put me on tilt. I have never finished a tournament and not been on tilt. Now, I've never won a tournament, but I've never finished a tournament and not just been annoyed, frustrated, angry, whatever. So that's one reason I didn't go out to the World Series of Poker. The second reason I didn't go out to the World Series of Poker is it's the desert in July. It's like 120 degrees in Vegas right now. I mean, it's hot as hell down here in Florida. It's like 88 degrees with humidity, but the desert, the dry heat, that is something different. I'm not super excited about going out and doing that. And the third reason is because I went to the World Series of Poker in 2021 and in 2022, and the World Series of Poker brings together all the best tournament players and all the best cash game players from across the United States. Also, you've got Canada, you've got European countries, and you've got South American countries. Everyone is coming over and congregating in Las Vegas, Nevada to play poker tournaments and to play cash games. And what I noticed was the games were some of the toughest games I had ever played in my entire life because all the great players from all over the place are all going to Vegas to play tournaments and to play cash games. So when I went out there in 2021 and in 2022, I was playing 5, 10, 20. I was playing 10, 20, 40 with freaking crushers. These guys were really good. They never made mistakes, and I lost both times that I went out there. So I thought, you know what? Let's take this summer off. I've got a lot going back here in Florida. I'm working on my new game. I'm working on other things and getting stuff together. So decided to skip out on the 2024 World Series of Poker for those reasons. However, the main event is going on right now, the $10,000 World Series of Poker main event, where somebody's going to win $10 million in about a week. And I do have to say, I have a little bit of FOMO. I have a little bit of fear of missing out. I do wish I was there to play the main event. It seems to be such a fun event. And I will say right now, for 2025, I am going to play my very first ever World Series of Poker $10,000 main event tournament. I'm going to do that next year, and I might play some other tournaments too. Maybe instead of going out there and just grinding cash, I'll try to play some tournaments, have some fun. So I will be doing that next year, but for now, I'm here in Florida. Today's video is going to be a fun 5, 10, 25 session that I played just about a week ago. There's a bunch of crazy all-ins, some interesting hands. I hope you guys enjoy this one. Let's go. When I came into the Hard Rock on a Saturday night, I actually wasn't planning on filming this session for the vlog, but after a few big hands, I decided this session is exciting enough, I gotta start filming, which means the first 3 hands I'm gonna show you guys, I do not have live camera footage of. Let's get into the first one where I raise King 10 of spades to $30. The big blind makes the call, and I flop an open-ended straight draw on a 7, 8, 9 board. My opponent actually leads out on this board for $75, a pretty big bet. He's a clear recreational player, and I think he's just pretty face up here, doing this with top pair, possibly a pair and a straight draw, maybe an over pair. I've got a lot of equity here, straight draw, backdoor flush draw, over card, so I make the call. Turn card is the 7 of diamonds, pairing the bottom card and bringing in a diamond flush draw, and now he continues for a $150 bet. I make the call again, and the river card double pairs the board. 8 of diamonds. This is a very interesting run out here. My opponent now still bets for a third time of a $300 sizing. Now, I have around $2,000 plus left in my stack. He covers me here, and I have to think, could I turn my hand into a bluff and try to get him off hands like a 9? Possibly pocket 10s or pocket jacks, and I feel like on this run out, I pretty much can. I mean, given the fact that the 8 paired, I don't think he's ever leading out on the flop with an 8 and continuing on the turn with an 8. With that being said, I can easily have an 8 here calling on the flop and on the turn, so I decided to go for it, trying to get him to fold out those 1 pair hands, a 9, and over pair, I re-raise his $300 bet to $1,500, a 5x raise here as a bluff. And my opponent goes into the tank. He's looking over at me. He's looking at my stack. He's contemplating his options back and forth. And eventually he calls my bet. I turn over the king high and he shows pocket queens with no diamond. Wow. What a sick call. I end up torching around $2,000 in this hand. I honestly should learn my lesson by now. Recreational players do not come to the casino to fold their cards. Moving on to the next hand. The same player who I just tried to bluff last hand raises in the hijack to $75. I call in the big blind with pocket 9s and go to the flop of king 5-7. I check to him and he bets out $50. Small sizing with pocket 9s here. I make the call and turn a set with the 9 of diamonds. I decide to lead out on this turn card, thinking that 1, this guy hates to fold, 2, he may check backhands like queens or jacks or ace-king or king-queen or king-jack for pot control. I'm going to lead out using my image. I make it $300. And to my surprise, he min-raises me here on the turn. He makes it $600. Now, this is pretty clear that he's got a very strong hand. Something like ace-king, pocket aces, possibly a set of 7s or a set of 5s. I don't think I want to bet 3-bet on this turn. I think I just want to call, allow him to continue to bet on the river, and then check jam all in. So that's what I decided to do. I call $600 with my set of 9s, and the final card is an ace. My plan was to check the river, check raise jam all in, but on this ace, my strategy has changed. I think if he does have a king queen, a king jack, a king 10, king 5 or king 7 or king 9 for 2 pair, he may find a check back on this ace. If he did have the ace high flush draw and he got there with top pair, he'll most likely check back with that hand as well. So I actually think leading out here again is a very exploitative play, something I would only do against a player who hates to fold, and I did just try to bluff him 5 minutes earlier. I think I'm just going to go for the max this time. I also think once he re-raises me on the turn when I lead out, he's going to have a super strong hand, so I decide to go all in for over a pot size bet of $2,300. The moment I shove my chip stack in the middle, he flicks in a chip and says call. And when he snap calls me here, I fear the bad news that he must have pocket kings or pocket aces for a bigger set. I fling over pocket 9s, expecting to be shown the bad news, but I'm not. He shows me pocket 7s for a lower set than me. Oh my god, what a sick cooler. He flopped a set, I turned a set, and we win over a $6,000 pot. We just tried to bluff this guy 5 minutes earlier. We got it all back and some in the very next hand. Last still frame hand review here. I call a raise in the big blind with king 10 offsuit and go 4 ways to king 10-5. Action checks all the way around. Turn 10, giving me a full house. Small blind leads out into all these players for $125. I contemplate raising right away, but I think with all these players left to act behind me, with a full house, I want to slow play, allow other players in the pot as well. So I just make the call for $125. Unfortunately, all the other players fold, and the final card is the 9 of diamonds, and my opponent in the small blind continues to bet for a big sizing, $500. Now, at this point, I know he's got a very strong hand, possibly the last 10, maybe queen jack for a straight, maybe even a worse full house with pocket 5s or 10-9. He's got $2,000 left in his stack. I think once he bets $500 on this river, he's not going to fold for $2,000, so I announce all in. He thinks for about 30 seconds and calls. I show the king 10 and it is good, and at this point, is when I decide I'm going to start filming for a vlog 3 really interesting hands back to back to back, and I have over an $8,000 stack now. You guys ever just get that feeling that you're going to have a great session, you're going to sun run and stack people over and over again? Well, after those 2 hands back to back, set over set, stacking my opponent, and then full house on the turn, my opponent then calling my all-in on the river and stacking him, I get out my camera, start filming, thinking this could be a big, big session, and it definitely does not disappoint. There's an action fun player at our table that I've been playing with here in Florida for the past couple years, and anytime he's at the game, he always likes to do the mandatory $25 straddle under the gun. So we are straddling except for the button player to my left. He has refused to do the straddle with all of us, so he is saving $25 every single round. You guys already know how I feel about that. I raise pocket tens, and this tight ass re-raises me on the button to $225. I'm going to fold until the fun player makes the call in this straddle. I want to play some pots with him, so I make the call as well with pocket tens and go 3 ways to ace, 9, 2 with a flush draw. Straddle checks, I check, button puts out a bet, straddle folds, and I fold. The only reason I gave you action is because he called. I would never give you action.
Why would you say that?
Because you are the only one not straddling at our table. I said this before and I'll say it again, and I recommend you guys do the same. Do not give action to nits. You got to give action to get action. I raise 10-7 suited on the button to 125, get 2 callers. Flop a flush draw and bet 125 again and only get 1 caller. I turn a flush. Yeah, things are going pretty well this session. I bet $300+ this time and my opponent folds. This was a very interesting session, not just because I was running good, I have some more bigger hands yet to come, but also because on my drive in here this evening to the Hard Rock was when I found out about the assassination attempt against former President Trump in Pennsylvania. When I got into the room, it had only been about 10 minutes after they broke the news, and down here in South Florida, that is a pretty big deal. The entire poker room was just buzzing, people talking, people arguing, saying their side, saying another side, and it definitely made a very interesting dynamic at the poker table. A seat opens in our game, and Colby Covington, a UFC champion, sits down in seat number 8. He's waiting for his PLO game. He races in the hijack. I call with ace-jack suited in the small blind, big blind, and straddle call. We check through a 9-9-5 flop. Turn card is the jack of clubs, giving me top pair, top kicker. I lead out for $200. Big blind folds. Straddle folds, but Colby Chaos Covington makes the call. River card's an ace, giving me top 2 pair. Obviously, our hand is very strong, but I think we can get more value on this river by checking and allowing him to bluff with the straight draws like Queen 10 and King Queen that missed. This is an ace scare card, so I check over to him, hoping he'll bluff, but he doesn't. He checks back. Ace Jack is good, and we take down a small pot versus a UFC champ. Next hand, we're playing somewhat short-handed, and the non-straddler to my left raises to $60. I'm in the straddle with pocket nines. I got a call even though I don't want to, but I get rewarded on a 9-7-6 2-club board. Top set for me. I check, and unfortunately, he checks back. Turn card's a 2, bringing in 2 flush draws. Versus a very tight player who doesn't play many hands, his under-the-gun range is going to have a lot of overpairs and suited cards, so I decided to go with an overbet on this turn, really targeting his overpairs that he checked back on the flop for pot control, and also targeting trying to get the max from his ace-high flush draws. I just don't think he's going to have many offsuit Broadway cards or offsuit ace-x cards. He does decide to call 225. He must have something going to the river, which is an offsuit ace. I feel like this is a great card. If he did have the ace-x of clubs or the ace-x of hearts, he now made top pair. He could have an ace-x hand, but I think a lot of the time he's going to have those pairs like tens, jacks, queens, and kings once he checks back the flop and then calls the turn. I'm going to try to target those hands, make it look like I'm bluffing here, and bet out for $800, another overbet into a $585 pot. Now, this player to my left also watched me just about 2.5, 3 hours earlier bluff for $1,500, and he saw that hand. I'm going to try to use that to my advantage and overbet when I actually have it, trying to target his hero calls here. I will be bluffing a lot in this situation once my opponent raises, then checks back the flop, and then just calls the turn. I'm going to have a lot of bluffs that contain an 8, a lot of missed flush draws that I would be betting with this sizing. So I am balanced here that I'm betting this big with my value and also betting this big with my bluffs as well. I mean, I just tried to do it 2 hours early with king 10 of spades on a double paired board and got hero called by pocket queens. This time I actually have it, so I'm obviously hoping for a call. He thinks for a while. 30 seconds turns into a minute turns into 2 minutes, 2 minutes turns into 3 minutes. This guy's tanking forever, and eventually he decides to call. Nice. We get paid off here, and he shows me his hand, which I was very surprised about. He had 9-7 of hearts for a flopped top 2 pair and a river 2 pair. Surprising that he thought about it for that long. I mean, it's just a snap call with his hand on that board on that river card, but it is nice to get paid off. I'm glad I went with the overbet. I feel like we won the max with the way he played it. Another pot is going our way. Another cooler is going our way again, with the biggest hand of the night coming up next.
I've watched so many sets.
I raise pocket kings to 75. Only the action player in the straddle calls. Heads up to 9-9-5 with 1 club. He checks. I bet $100 and he makes a call. Turn card 10 of clubs, bringing in a flush draw. He checks again, and against some players, I may be tempted to check back for some pot control and deception, but against this player, I think it's good to just continue to bet. Probably just going to bet 3 streets with my particular hand. I make it $300. Back over to him, and he decides now to check raise me to $900, which really surprised me. I didn't think he was going to be check raising much on this turn card, and now I have a decision to make. It is a pretty strong play, but he could be doing this with hands that we are beating. He could have floated on the flop with hands like Queen, Jack of clubs, King, Queen of clubs, Ace, X of clubs. I look back at my kings, and I do not have the King of clubs, meaning he could have some King X flush draws. He could even just have something like Ace 10 suited that he's raising for potential value. So I'm going to call this $900 and evaluate what happens on the river. And the final card is a good one. It's the King of Diamonds, giving me top full house in an already massive pot. Back over to my opponent, who fires out the same bet he made on the turn, $900 with around $2,500 left in his stack. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I knew today was going to be a good day, and a good day it has been. I already overset someone, stacked someone with a full house, flopped a set versus 2 pair and got paid off, and then now in a massive pot, I hit a full house on the river. He bet $900, only one option for me. I announce all in for his last $2,500. He thinks for about 45 seconds, contemplates, and then puts in the call over a $7,000 pot going my way. He shows me that he had Queen 9 offsuit. He flopped trips. He bet big on the turn. I called and hit a 2-outer on the river to stack him in a massive pot. Wow, what a sick cooler. Every single hand so far in this vlog has been wild. Everything is just going my way, and a massive stack of $14,000 sitting in front of me. I feel like I haven't ran this good in over a year. $14,000 in front of me. I call a re-raise with 5-6 suited. I flop a flush draw. I get there on the river with a flush. I check to be sneaky. He bets big, about the size of the pot. I decide to just call. It doesn't really matter. He was bluffing with pocket tens, and I end up taking down over a $2,000 pot. Next up, I've got Ace King in early position. Under the gun, a tight pro raises. I elect to just call next to act, a strategy I use when the table is mixed with professional players and recreational players here for fun. I don't see too much of a point in re-raising this tough pro and going heads up against him when I could call and go multi-way against players who do not play poker for a living, which is exactly what happens. We end up going 5 ways with Ace King to an Ace 5-5 board. Small blind checks, big blind checks, initial razor checks. I get sneaky and check, and the button puts out a bet of $200. Now, of course, when you're going super multi-way, you do have to tread a little bit lightly. I mean, I crushed this board. I've got top pair, top kicker with the backdoor nut flush draw, which is why I checked. When the button bets into all these people, I think she's going to have an ace, a 5, or a flush draw. When the small blind calls, I don't think my hand wants to raise. I think I just want to continue to slow play and just make the call, which is what I decided to do. $200 from each player. We were now 3 ways to a card improving my hand. It's a king, giving me top 2 pair. And now the small blind player leads out for a $300 bet. Now the question is, do we raise our hand? It is pretty strong, but either of these players could easily have a 5. I decided to just call, thinking that it would be hard to get called by worse if I do raise. And the button comes along with a call as well. This pot is escalating here, brewing up to over $1,500. Am I ahead or am I way behind? The 5th and final card the dealer puts out is the Queen of Clubs, only bringing in a hand like Jack 10 of Diamonds that is now beating me. The small blind who let out on the turn now checks over to me. I'm almost 100% sure I have him beat, and given the fact that the button did not raise the turn, I don't think she ever has a 5, so I'm going to bet here for value. I don't want to bet too big though. I want to bet a sizing that any ace X can call, and also a sizing that I can fold if somebody raises me. I bet about 1/3 size of the pot, $500. Button gets out of the way very quickly, so she must have had a flush draw. Back over to the small blind, who thinks and makes the call. Ace King, top 2 pair is good. He most likely just had an ace. And we win another pot, bringing our stack over $15,000 now. I gotta say, it's been one hell of a year. It started off okay, and then I went on a $60,000 downswing, which took me a couple months to get out of. And then I took some shots at some high-stakes live stream games in Los Angeles and in Texas, and I lost over $100,000 playing those games. Since then, I've been back here in Florida, just trying to grind it out, trying to build up my bankroll, and I gotta say, today was one of those perfect days. Everything went my way, and I ended up profiting huge on this session. The action player is leaving for the night, but before he leaves, he wants to do a $1,000 blind flip. So myself and 2 other players put in $1,000 blind before the flop for a $4,000 flip.
Yeah. Let's go, brother. Gamble. Like your break even.
Check.
Check. Open one card. Open one. I open both.
Oh, no, that's not a good card. That's a bad card.
One card. 3.
Oh, shit. You already looked? So the only way I can win is with a 3? The only way I can win is with a 3, right?
Open the next one.
Ah, look at that flop.
3, 4. Ship it, baby. Dealer.
The action player has 3-4 offsuit for flopped trips, and he ends up winning this $4,000 flip, and then of course promptly tipping the dealer $100. I had a sick hand with ace-7 of clubs for a flopped nut flush draw, and I missed everything. Maybe that's a sign that the run good is over for the night, so I end up calling it quits after 6 hours, profiting over $10,000. One of my biggest wins here at the Hard Rock playing 510. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see ya.